Okay, hello and welcome. All right, as usual, we'll be starting pretty slowly, already a couple of minutes late. We do still have people filing in, so I might wait a little bit longer. Okay, before we do start, I will take a moment to acknowledge the original custodians of the lands around Australia and its adjacent islands. I'm coming to you from the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I myself have connection to the lands of the Awabakal people. Excuse me, today I would like to make a special acknowledgement for a group, a set of some of our finest First Nations Australians, the 10 First Nations individuals elected to the Australian government recently, last month. I'll also acknowledge and pay respects to any mob with us today and all elders, whether they be past, present or emerging, and I will recognise that these lands were never ceded and that sovereignty has never been extinguished. A little housekeeping for today. This software doesn't let you unmute yourself, so if you do have a question, feel free to submit it in the question section of your control panel. We are recording. I will attempt to get this recording online by the end of the day, probably. So if anyone wants the link to it, just let me know on the help desk. I'll be showing you how to do that if you don't know at the end of this session. Also, I was meaning to say this last week and forgot, but this week I will. I've remembered to say it. I think you can make my face essentially a little bit smaller, my webcam. I think you can make that a little bit smaller. I'm not exactly sure how it works because it's a bit different for me than it is for you. But I think you can move things around a bit. So I could be a bit smaller, or you might even be able to get rid of me entirely, and then you might be able to see a bit more of class and whatever else. Anyway, we've got 90 minutes scheduled in for this session. I can't really see it going any less than that, but we'll see how we go. Okay, I have a quick question for you. Now, let me figure out how I do this. I click there, and then here we go. Okay, there's a little question for you. Now, I'm not going to make this mandatory. Voting is mandatory. This is not. If you want to submit one of those responses, please feel free to. Okay, so while you're doing that, welcome to class training for today. So last week we did a little overview, a bit of a long overview of the reports in class. Today we will be expanding on that. We'll have a bit of a deeper dive, a bit of a closer look at the standard reports. Next week we'll look at the drill down and DIY reports, and the week after that I think we're doing accountability. I have seen numbers for registrations on those. The next week's session is very popular and the one after not so much, but anyway. Okay, how do I display? Here we go. I'll tell you what I will do. I will go through a quick overview of the session today before I show you the results of the poll, which will give people a little bit more time if they still want to submit a response to that question. So I will give you a little introduction, then we'll go through the client reports, the service reports, Nlap reports, and more And then we'll do some telling stories with data and heat mapping, which is the interesting stuff, and then some of the less interesting stuff to finish on. Okay, I'm surprised we don't have more in this session. I find this to be one of the more interesting sessions, but anyway, that's up to each individual what they think. Okay, I'm going to close this poll now, and here's our results. So basically, what I was looking for are these options here. What's a class report or never seen one before? 15% for never seen one and 8% for what's a class report. Not sure how seriously people took that, but it sounds as though there are at least one or two people with us who don't know the reports. So we'll probably go through things in a fair bit of detail and kind of start from the start and go through everything. Okay, so we're starting with a little introduction following on from what I was just saying. Okay, so the class reports, I might skip over to class and I will show you where to find them. We'll go through the naming conventions. I'll go through at least one of them, and I'll give you a cheat code, which is the same one as last week. If you weren't with us last week, then you'll get it today. Okay, so this is class. I'm already logged in. I'm logged into the CLC's Australia instance of class. That just came to mind. I'm not sure why. Anyway, I figured this is a good enough time to let you know that none of the data you're seeing today is real data. It's all dummy data, so don't worry that you're going to be seeing any confidential information today. It won't be. So to find the report, you look in the bottom left and find reports and accountability. Click on that and then click on reports, and that will load the list of reports for you. Okay, there's a whole bunch in there. If we look again down the bottom, we see this is page 1 of 2, so the list is 2 pages long, and there's 66 items in there. Okay, now here's some of the notes for you. I'm going to flick back here just while I'm talking. Now, some of you might have more reports than others. Some of you might have fewer reports. It comes down to what role your class account has set for it. So if you want to see more of the reports, you need to ask your class administrator if they can alter the role set on your class account. Now, no one needs to know all of the reports. Basically, what you need to know is how they work. If you know the fundamentals, then you should be able to figure out what the data that you're getting is telling you. If you want to understand the reports more, you can ask us at the help desk. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you've got for us at the help desk. Now, one other little piece of information I would like to give you, which I think I did mention last week, but I want to mention it again, excuse me, is that if you're looking for data in class and you're diving into these reports, always use a standard report wherever you can. It's going to be quicker. They have counting rules built in, which makes things easier. And they're just easier to use. So if you don't have to use a more difficult report, then use the standard reports. Those are the ones that we're looking at today, and we'll have a good look at them. Okay. So there's a few little notes for you. I'll move on to the naming conventions. So I did go through this last week, but let's have a quick look at it again today. That's not going to work. I'm trying to flick over to class. There it is. Okay. So this is the list of reports, and as you see, we've got the display name and the report type, which kind of seem to be the same thing, really. I will mention the format column. If I scroll down, we'll see that most of these reports are standard reports. Those are the ones we're looking at today. When we get towards the bottom of the list, we will see reports that have a format of drill down. We won't be looking at those today. We'll look at those next week. As we can see, if I do a search in here, I can remove those drill down and DIY reports to give us just the standard reports, and there's 47 of them. So as I was saying, you don't need to memorize exactly how each one works, nor exactly what data you're getting in each one. If you know the fundamentals, you'll be able to figure out what's going on with these reports. I'm going to scroll back to the top of this list, and I will give you that naming convention that I just mentioned. So here's the names of the reports. This is one of them here, C01, clients by priority group, all. I don't know what that means, ignore it. So what we're looking at is this letter at the very start and then the number. That's our basic naming convention. We then get a few words which will tell us a bit more about what's in the report. So for this one, we've got C01, and the C will all, the letters will all stand for something. So this one is a C report, this one is a D report. If I was to scroll down, there would be more D reports. The C reports are for clients, so they're counts of clients. So if we have, and this is the number 1 report, and here's the C03 and so on. If we have a look at the C01, we can see it's clients by priority group. The C03 is very similar. We had a look at the C03 last week. This week we might have a look at the C01. We'll come back to that pretty shortly. So that's the basic naming convention. I will let you know what all of the letters stand for. D is for, I've completely forgotten it now. I'm trying to, here we go. We will have a look at one later. So D, I'm not surprised I forgot it. D stands for DIPT, which is there, which I have just realized. You know, if you don't know what DIPT means, I wouldn't be surprised. It stands for Data Informed Planning Toolkit. I don't really know a ton about this stuff, the Data Informed Planning Toolkit. We will have a look at one of those reports later and see what they look like. So the C, our client, D is DIPT. We've also got M, here's more D reports. M stands for management. Don't know why it's called management, but essentially these M reports, they give you data for the accountability stats and figures and facts and whatnot. We created these reports for the program managers. For your program managers, they asked us for them. Can you put in some reports to make it easier to get data for the accountability stuff out? So we did, and then at that same time, we decided they shouldn't have anything that you don't, so you've got access to them as well. If you want to use them, feel free to. If you don't do accountability, if you're not that interested in them, don't bother with them. I would ignore them if you want to. And there's a couple more things here. N, so as you can see here, it says NPA. Well, that changed over to the Nlap quite a while ago. We are actually going to change that soon, so we'll say Nlap rather than the NPA. We'll have a look at some of those. These are basically for your performance benchmarks for the Nlap. So we'll have a look at that a bit later. And then S stands for services, so there'll be counts of services. We will have a look at those later as well. And I think there's one more. No, that must be a drawdown report, the one I was thinking of. Well, we might look at that last week. No, we might look at it next week. I was going to say, I think we already looked at it last week. Anyway, that's basically the naming convention. There's also a cheat code, which I gave you last week. For anyone who wasn't here last week, we'll go through it again today pretty quickly. It's pretty simple. There's 2 reports out of the standard reports that are used most often and that we think are the most useful. And we've got a little bit of a cheat code to help you remember which ones they are. So one of them is the C03 report. And C is the 3rd letter of the alphabet. So we made this report C03. And then the other one is the service report. So we made that one S01. And I gave a bit of a spiel about that last week, which isn't very interesting. I'm not going to do it again this week. Anyway, those are the 2 reports. There's your cheat code, the C03, C being the 3rd letter of the alphabet, and the other one is your S report or your services report. So that is the S01. Okay, that's pretty much the intro, I think. All right, let's move on to the client reports. Counts data for your clients. Another quick note here. I know there's a lot of notes and stuff anyway. The note here is about services. I've got this set up. So some of these client reports, I'm flicking back. Some of these client reports don't count all of the services. So I'm going to flick over to our website. I've got it opened to one of the pages that describes one of these reports, the C01, which we'll have a look at in a minute. I just want to have a look at this really quickly. I should have set that to open at the top. Okay, there's the page that, from our website, and this is the documentation for this particular report. And I just want to scroll down and I just want to show you something quickly, which I did kind of show last week. But in terms of the client reports, so if a report is a C0 something or other or a C whatever report, they probably, I'm not going to say all of them do, but they probably have a counting rule that takes services into consideration. So this is the counting rule for the C01 report, and a lot of them are pretty similar. We're actually going to update them all pretty soon, basically just to include one or two new service types, mostly around ongoing legal support, ongoing non-legal support, stuff like that. So this is how these standard reports work. They'll only count clients who've had certain service types. Essentially, it'll leave out anything like information services. So if you've got a client who's only ever had information services, this C01 report is not going to count them. Someone who's only ever had information referrals, or maybe you've only just had your first phone call from them and they've got a service sitting in triage, they're not going to be counted either. If you've got custom service types, things like no-shows, anything like that, they're not going to be counted either. So I just wanted to give you a quick note on that. Okay, so there's more notes for you. Let's go and have a look at a report and see how they work. I'll show you the C01, starting with pretty much the first report we've got in class here. I'll do this pretty quickly. Actually, no, I won't. I'll do this the long way to start with, just in case there was anyone, just in case we've got anyone here today who wasn't with us last week. There's when you open the report, this is what you get. You've got a couple of panels here. This is your standard panel on the left, and then you've got the filter panel and the big main panel, which, as you can see at the moment, is empty. Okay, the first thing you're going to need to do when working with these reports is to fill in the filter panel. So essentially what we're doing here is giving it a date range and then the funding categories. And there's a few more things we can do, but we'll come back to that later. Now, there's a couple of different ways to enter date ranges. We've got a date picker, so you can just click on the little box with that little triangle there and pick your date range. I'll quickly put in 12 months worth of data, so I can just use this button to go back a month. I'll put it forward a month. I'm not going to go forward a year, that wouldn't make much sense. I'm going to go back a year and pick the 8th of June. And then for the end date of our date range, so I'll just show you the other way to do these. You can type in the dates. I'm going to go 07/06/2022 and hit enter. That'll work. So you can do that either way. I always use the date pickers myself and never type them in, but everyone's different. Everyone likes working a bit differently, so do whatever works for you. We've also got this today button. You can just click that and that will enter today's date for you. Funding categories, click there to open the list of them. We've got some silly ones in here, some dummy ones that we've set up. Never mind that. You can select groups, an entire group of funding categories if you wanted. I'll deselect that. You could select a single funding category just to get data only for that one funding category if you wanted to. I'm going to deselect that again. If you're just looking for everything, you can just click this checkbox or tick this checkbox next to where it says name. That'll select all the funding categories. You can now just click out of there anywhere. That'll close that. Now all I have to do is click load report. And that is going to load data into the report, and it loads it into this big main panel. Now, first thing to know is that they always load a bit small. I don't really like the way this works, but it's how it works. Anyway, we've got a couple of options to change the size of it. You can use this drop-down menu if you like. I'll set it to the page width, and that's a bit better. Now we can see the data a bit better, or you can use the zoom in and zoom out buttons if you want. Zoom it in, and now we can see much better. Excuse me while I'm reading a quick question. We make custom service types. Are they made children? Yep, that doesn't count them against the parent problems. Yep. What about other custom entries that are parented to? Okay. Before I go on, I've just been discussing funding categories, and I've gotten a pretty good question. Thank you for this question about funding categories, and I think I might just try to make an answer to this question now. Okay, it's a bit of a multi-part question. So someone's asking that when they make custom service types, so things I was talking about things like no-shows, they're made children of existing ones. Yes, they are. That doesn't count them against the parent problem type. It does. So it will depend on how you have parented that custom service type. If you have created something like a no-show and you've then parented it to something like information, that still won't be counted in that report because it's counted against the parent, which is information, and information is not counted in this report. What are other custom entries that are parented to existing field entries? I'm not gonna, existing, yes. Okay, so the answer to that is yes, they will be counted. Other custom entries that are parented to existing field entries, yes. So if you've got a field like, let me think about a disability status field, you could put in like I'm not sure if you do, this is just really just an example, but if you had a custom thing in there and you parented that to an existing one, then what happens is that these reports will count those as the parent categories. So let me just take an example. Say you customized income level. I'm only using this as an example because my pointer was already there. You create a custom income level and it might be somewhere in between low and medium, and you parented it to medium, just as an example. When you go and select that in a service, and then you run this report will count that service in the parent category. So in this case, in this example, it would be medium income level. You're not going to get the custom ones in here. If you want the custom, custom things that you've set up, you might need to be looking at DIY reports for that. I'm not even sure if they cover it. That's a really good question. I might take a note of it and pop that into next week's session. Just excuse me for a second. I hope that answers that question. It was a good one. Thanks, Jess, you're welcome. That was a good question. Okay, funding categories. So, okay, back to these reports. So I'll go through the layout of the report just really quickly. We get this big blue bar kind of thing at the top with the name of the report in it. And then we get all these filters down here. So it'll give us our date range, the funding categories we selected, the catchment type. I'll come back to that. That'll be listed in here. And then the center. So I'm logged into this center. So for some reason it's printed that on the screen. And if you were to print this to a piece of paper, it would print that as well. Okay, now, as for the data we're getting, so this is telling us the center name, here's the center name, and then it's giving us our totals. And the totals seem to match both rows here. Scrolling across. So this report is telling us the number of clients, the total number of clients we had. Now, again, I just want to quickly mention those counting rules. So this will be the total number of clients who've had certain types of services within their date range, so long as these funding categories were selected. There's the total. Again, saying we've got all dummy data, so our numbers, the numbers that you're seeing today may look vastly different to what you see, but these are all just demonstrations, so never mind that. So of our 30 odd clients, it's then going to break down these clients into all the demographics, so gender demographics, age ranges, people experiencing financial disadvantage, and then income levels, and all of the other demographics. I was just wondering, what is the difference between this report and the C03? And I've just realized the demographics aren't available in the C03 report. We'll see that a bit later. Okay, I will show you now in terms of seeing all of the functionality and how to use these standard reports. I'll show you this thing here. It says catchment. You could move that, get rid of it if you don't want to see it. You just want all the data just for your center. You could just get rid of that. Not interested, just don't show it to me, basically, is what you could do. You could remove it. But there are other options here as well. So I'll click into here to load this list, and there's no other options in there. There are in other reports. I might come back to it. That was a very good demonstration. Anyway, so that's a client report. I'll flick back to the list of reports. We've got a whole bunch of client reports. I don't really have time to go through all of them and show you what they all do today, but that's one of them and how they work. So that's a series 01, clients by priority group or demographics. I wonder if that is the same thing. Clients by geographical area. You could guess what these reports do or what data they have in them by the name of the report. Clients by law type. Client broken down by funding categories. Okay, I might move on to get sound. Oh, so I've got someone here saying that they can't get sound. That's not good. Okay. What do I do? Let me just, excuse me for a sec while I just, here we go. I'm hoping this might help. Dang. Okay, hopefully that will help. Could you let me know in the questions panel again if that has helped you get audio working? I hope it has. I kind of need to move on though. Unfortunately, I'd like to be able to help more. I hope that does work. This is where I was going, client reports, service reports. I'm going to flick back to class and we'll have a look at a service report. So last week we looked at the S01. If you want to have a look at one of the really good reports, the S01 is a good one. It's in here somewhere. I can't even find it anymore, so I might actually look at a different one this week, which I was going to do anyway. So again, just like the client reports, there's a whole bunch of different service reports by high-level problem type, services broken down by all sorts of things. Representation services, duration by percentage. That sounds like an interesting one. Mode of delivery by reporting period. Yeah, so there's some really interesting reports in here that give you really interesting data. I might look at the services by funding category. I'm not sure why, just, that's the one I've got open. That's what I'm gonna look at. So for that last report, I showed you how to enter all of this stuff. I'm just gonna flick through it really quickly. Bear with me while I just throw some data into this report really quick. Okay, so this is the data we're getting. Excuse me, I'm just checking something. Yeah, that seems to be working. Okay, all right. So again, I'm going to make this a bit bigger. There we go. All right, so now, this is the S05 report, services by funding category. Here are the little bits of information about the report again, blah, blah, blah. So now we've got the funding categories listed down here. And now this report, like the one we saw last week, for anyone who wasn't with us last week, this is basically what these services reports do. They break down the data into the service types. So the number of informations, referrals, all the different service types. And then when you get to your ongoing services, your non-discrete or ongoing services, they will give you how many were already open at the start of the date range, how many were opened during the date range, and how many were closed during the date range. Yeah, so generally, you can see just generally there were 32 informations put under the generalist services funding category. Yep. So that's a really pretty quick look at that. I wonder if I could get this to, no, I can't. All right, I might come back to that again as well. Okay, I might move on kind of quick. That's really flash look at the services reports. Again, we've got a lot of them. Let me flick back to the list of reports. And again, I don't really have time to go through all of those reports, but we've seen how the reports work. If you do want to, if you're looking at one of them and don't understand it, please come to the help desk. We're more than happy to have a look at these reports and help you out with whatever you need. But I might move on pretty quickly because we do have a fair bit to cover today. The Nlap reports, do I have a note telling me which one of those to look at? I don't think I do. All right, let's go and find one then. Nlap. So why don't I do a search for NPA and hope this doesn't take all day to load. There we are. So there's 4 of them. Services to priority clients, FEI. Okay. I might look at the N01 just to look at a really basic one. and just see what we get in these reports. Flick in 12 months worth of data, just select the funding categories and load the report. Okay, right, yes, okay. I'll make it full screen or page width, and this is what it's showing us now. I've just remembered that I had something set up. I've got it set up to show you. I might flick over to that in just a second. I might give a bit of an explanation of the data that we're seeing in here. Again, it's got the same layout. We can see here, this is the representation services delivered to people experiencing financial disadvantage, the total number of representation services, and then it makes it a percentage. Now, I'm going to flick over to our website because I've got the documentation for this report open. There it is. So apparently this is the clause within the, I'm not sure, either MPA or Nlap, which states that 90% or more of total rep services are to be delivered to people experiencing financial disadvantage. So because that is a clause within our contracts, this report then displays the total number of representation services that were closed during the date range, and then it breaks them down into that percentage to see if we're meeting our targets. So that's that report. We could probably have, excuse me, a really quick look at the N02 as well, just while we're here. I'll throw 12 months of data into it. I just want to see, okay. I'll put it up to page width. Okay, so I'm going to need that big up. Total number of representation services. Okay, so this breaks it down into priority clients or the demographics. So here's FDI, FEI. So then age ranges, ATSI, and then we've got all kinds of demographics. So it looks like some of them are not in there, anyway. And then it gives you the percentages. So that's what that report does. So those are the Nlap reports for you. Feel free to go and have a look at those at your leisure. And also feel free to come to us at the help desk with questions if you like. What am I doing? Yep. I just want to really quickly, bear with me. Okay, telling stories with data. Okay, we're getting through this pretty well, actually. All right, that's all looking, okay, telling stories with data. Okay. So I haven't had a look at any of the M reports. I'm probably going to skip those for today. And because I'm doing accountability in 2 weeks, we will definitely look at them then. But I will look at one of the other types of reports here. So we've got the N, S, and C. I'm going to flick back to the list of reports. And I'm going to look at the D reports, DIPT. In fact, I could do, no, I don't think I will because I don't know if that is going to work. So the D01, yeah, that's the one I want. No, sorry, it isn't. My note is telling me to look at the D03, so I'm going to try and find that. I think it might be up here. C03, D02. Interesting. D02. Okay, I'm going to do a search word DIPT. Then there is no D03. Okay, interesting. Just bear with me, it won't take a second. D03. All right, we're going to open the D01. Clients, all right, percentages, yeah, I don't think that's right. Must have gotten my thing wrong. Anyway, my note. Anyway, bear with me. I'm just throwing 12 months worth of data into this one as well, and we'll have a look at a report for the data-informed planning toolkit. Before we have a look at that, I'm going to flick back over to the website. So under the resources here, this is the class documentation, then the data consistency guide, and then legal needs planning resources is what it's now called or referred to as. People always keep changing the terminology and phrases and whatnot. That's where you'll find information on what the data-informed planning toolkit is. It's legal needs planning, I believe, and we've got a guide to it. apparently these reports will give you data around this sort of thing. So I've loaded 12 months worth of data into the D01 services for the Data Informed Planning Toolkit. And this is what it looks like. It's essentially the same as the S01, but it is formatted vastly differently, as we can see. That's it, that's all it is. So I believe the reason for that is just to make it easy to export and then work with. So I think that's what those reports are for. Okay, this is not going perfectly. All right, let me flick back to the list of reports. D02 clients for percentage services for DRPT. S01, that's not it. I did have a report here. Excuse me, I set this up this morning and now I can't find it. Yeah, I can't. NPA, no, that's not it. Let me close that one. That's not it. Oh, hang on. Okay. Apologies for that. I just could swear I had planned that better this morning, but I don't know what's happened. Anyway, what I'm going to do is open the C03 report. There's a couple of things I want to go through with you. Let me throw 12 months of data into the report, and then I'll get onto a couple more demonstrations for you. Okay, so earlier on, I was talking about this thing here, which says catchment. We've now got another one that says demographic. I'll go through this one first. So as we can see, this is very similar to the report we saw earlier. This is the one that counts total clients and then gives you the breakdowns by demographics. So this is giving us the data for the whole center, but we can break that down into different, we can aggregate the data differently. So currently we're breaking it down by center. So we can get this to aggregate it by the administrative boundary. We can do it by office location or outreach location. I'm going to select the office location for today, and then you can select them if you want. You can say, I only want the data for the central office, or maybe I want to compare that to number 4 office. These are obviously dummy offices. They're not real ones. I'm just going to click select all just for a demonstration, then I can just click out of there and I'll click load report again, and we'll see the difference it makes. And I can also show you one other thing. So here's another demonstration for you, which I think I tried to demonstrate last week, but wasn't a very good demonstration. So we've got the toggle multi-page mode, which is this little button up here. If I click that, that's going to put all the pages into one list, and then we can see them all in one go. If I scroll down, there's our page 2. We're still loading. It's now loaded data in, but it's okay. It has loaded all the data in. On page 2, we've got the totals, but on page 1, so we've got it breaking down by whichever office locations have had services delivered from them within this date range. So we've got one, I'll make this bigger, it's always too small. We've got 1, 2, 3 different office locations, and it breaks the data down that way. I will come back to that again a little bit later. I'm going to set that back to default for now, and then I'm going to minimize that again. I'm going to show you the demographics. So I was going to go into looking at telling stories with data, and I did set something up earlier, so hopefully this will work. I did go through this last week, but I'll just do it again quickly this week. I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years worth of data and click load report. Got all the funding categories, and it's set to aggregate the data just for the center. Got one page, and I'll make it bigger. We've got 263 clients. This is much more like what you might be seeing. Hopefully it looks a bit more realistic anyway. We might be able to get a bit of a decent kind of a demonstration out of this. Let's hope so. Okay, Now I'm going to go into the demographics and I'm going to find, okay. So going back to what we were talking about before, the Nlap reports, the N reports, it's supposed to be delivering services to people experiencing financial disadvantage. So I'm going to set this to yes, and then I'm going to click load report again. So we had 263 clients. It's now going to be 142, I think it is. Let's go up. 142 clients. Now, if you're trying to tell a story with those figures, that wouldn't be telling a very impressive story, but this is dummy data. So that's not the story we're telling right now, so just ignore that. What I am going to say is I'm going to add in, here it is here, the homelessness indicator. I might add that as well. So set that to yes, and then I'll click load report again. We had 142 clients, and we'll see what this does. And that's brought our number down to 73. So the story we could tell from this data is that around half of the people, half of our clients who are experiencing financial disadvantage are also experiencing homelessness. So that could be an interesting story to tell. If you were to tell your funding bodies, policy makers, stories along those lines, that might open a few eyes. Basically, this is just a basic demonstration though. We've got so many demographics in here. There would be at least dozens, if not hundreds of ways to mix and match this data, and dozens of stories that you could tell with this kind of data. That's one demonstration. It's a pretty quick one, but you could do a lot with these reports. If anyone wants help with any of that kind of stuff, definitely come to us at the help desk. Now I've got another question here. Do any of the standard reports give you time series? I don't think so, off the top of my head. I'm guessing you're asking, do they break them down by time? I don't think the data will display in terms of time. What you could do is change a date range. You could do it for a month, set it for the month of May 2022, and then run your data and maybe export it. And I don't know, you could do it that way, but I think the answer to that question is no, not really. E.g., how many of a priority group by month or quarter over a 12-month period, or how many of a particular kind of service, open or closed monthly by year, etc. I don't think these standard reports do that. So I think you've got a couple of options there. If you want to do that, one would be to do something like what I was just explaining, although I've just realized that might not be the best way to do it, because you might get double counting. If you've got a client who's, anyway, that could be present in the reports you run for both May and April, just as an example. So that would be one way to do it. The other way would be to use a DIY report, in which case I recommend signing up, registering. That's the word I was looking for. Registering for next week's training session. I'll show you how to do that. I'm sure you've already, if you've registered for this one, I'm sure you know how to do it already. I hope that answers that question, but please let me know if it doesn't. I'm just gonna, excuse me for a second, need a sip of my. Okay, much better. All right. So I think that's basically the demonstration I had for you today in terms of telling stories with data. Where are we? Okay. Been going about 45 minutes. Let's see what else we've got to talk about. This is the most interesting one, I think, anyway. I find this one of the most interesting parts of all of the training that I do, really. So all this data that we're getting, and about all of it, but most of it probably, we could take it out and we can put it onto a map and then display regions on the map, heat regions, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. Okay, let me flick back to class. There are a few tricks to this and I will go through them. So interesting that I've got C03 open because I made this, and this is the exact report I need. Now I'm going to take my demographic as well, graphics, and set them all back to default, which is any. That's not just set it back to any. Okay, now click out of there. All right. Okay. There's no one here. That has to be put back to any, and I think that's it for the demographics. And then I'm going to set the catchment to, okay. So I did say I was going to come back to this. I'm going to aggregate this data by administrative boundary. And then I need to choose an administrative boundary type. It won't let me load the report without doing that. I will select suburb. And then I'll click load report. You could put in the boundary codes if you wanted to. I could put in Sydney and it will just give me the data for Sydney, just as a demonstration. I'm just going to click load report and it's just going to give me any of the data that it can. So these will be clients because this is a client report, but only clients that have had certain service types within the date range, and it'll then list out any of the suburbs that those clients lived in. Let me make it bigger, it's always so small. So there's unknowns, then we've got all these suburbs. I'll just go multi-page mode and scroll back down again, and here's page 2. So here's some suburbs. Those ones are in Sydney. I don't know that one. And there's all the suburbs all listed there. Okay, so I've got a C03 report, so it's a count of clients. So what I could do is I could go to a map, which I'm going to show you shortly, and I could make the map show me how many clients in each of these suburbs and then put a heat region in each of the suburbs. First thing to do is to export it. I'm not sure which formats you can use and which you can't. I'll come back to that again later as well. I'm going to download it as CSV. I'm fairly sure you could use XLS or XLSX. Gee, that's hard to say. Not sure about any of these other ones. Now, the next thing to know is that this is where it gets tricky. I'm going to close this thing down the bottom because I don't need it, because I did that earlier. So I've already got this file open. So I'm going to click here to open that CSV file. There it is. It's technically not that one, it's different, but never mind, this is just a demonstration. So this is what it looks like when you export it. Now, I've also got another file in behind this one. That's it there. So what I did was I downloaded this one and then I just went save as and just saved it with a new name and then worked on the new file. So now I've got the 2 files, and now that I click there, it's shown us the other file and what I've done with it. So this is what I've done with it. So this is where it does get tricky. You have to be very technical about what data you're putting into the map, otherwise it won't work. Let me flick back to the original file that I downloaded. So as we can see, there are some pretty major differences. Essentially what I've done is remove a lot of stuff. All of this stuff, I kind of just select it all and just delete it and just keep going. What you can do is just go, I just don't want any of those columns. Right click in the column header and go delete, and I'll just do it. No, not paste. Excuse me, cancel, delete, and it'll just get rid of all that data and just bring the next lot of data across. Do it again. There we go, and you can just keep going. Just delete out everything until you get basically the data that you want. Now, you'll have to do it with the rows as well. You can just go, I don't want any of that. None of that is of any use to me. I'll just delete the lot. Okay, so now what we've got here is we've got a row of headers. No, sorry. We've got 2 rows of headers. So this one is telling us total number of clients. That's good. We want that one. This one's telling us the gender, and then we're coming down to the next one, male, female. It's actually removed some of them. I don't know what's going on here, but male, female, other gender, they're all in there. The map can't work with that. You have to have 1 row of headers. So I'm going to remove that one. And that's fine because the demonstration I'm doing is just for total number of clients anyway now. Obviously, you would remove all of those columns as well. And that's most of the formatting you have to do. There's a couple more things. This one is unknown. The map is not going to be able to map unknowns, so you have to remove that. And then this is totals. It can't map totals either. They have to go to, okay. I'm going to flick back to my other file. Now, there is something that stands out a lot for me. Someone has asked, can I please send the class help desk contact details again? Yes, absolutely, we'll do that. Just give me a moment. I'm kind of right in the middle of this. Now, for this file, it is a bit different. I've set it up, so we'll see what it does a bit later, but there's something that stands out for me, and it's this cell that's highlighted. So that's a little code, and I got that little code thingy from a page on the website. Now, this is it here. I'll click over to it so we can see it. I used to say you can just do a quick Google search and find this. That doesn't work anymore. It's so annoying. In fact, this is not the page. Oh, that is so, oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, that's good. So this has got a whole bunch of codes in it. This long page on the website comes from the government, I think. I don't really know. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. Ignore all the things I'm scrolling past. Basically, all the codes that you need for the software, the piece of software that we're about to use, it needs you to give it a code, and you get them from here. If anyone needs to find this page, let me know. I might actually put it up on our website. We don't actually have any of this heat mapping documented on our website, but I could do that if people were interested. You could pop that into the questions panel just quickly if you wanted to have this up on our website, and let us know that. What I'm going to do, because we're looking at suburbs, I did my data by suburb. So what I could do is just go command find and go, it's already in there, suburb, hit enter. So we can see there's 5 of them. And come down here, it says suburb there, and again there, but this says local government area. So this, and an LGA, this doesn't look like the code to me. So I'm just going to scroll through a bit, scroll through some of those. State suburbs, this is looking more like it. So this is the code I've taken. The field, I don't want it done by year. I want it done without the year, the synonym. You could probably use that one, it would work, but there's a couple of different options here, the code or the name. Now, if we remember back to my file, it had the names of the suburbs. So I took this code and I put that into the A1 cell of my spreadsheet. I have tested this and it did work this morning, so it should work. You've also got the codes, so there are some sort of 5-digit codes. If that's going to work for you, great, use it. I've no idea what that is, to be honest with you. Okay, so once we've got our file formatted correctly, so this is the file formatted correctly. It's telling us this is the name of the suburb. There's the names of our suburbs, and then the next column is the total number of clients. This is just dummy data. Anyway, once we've got that formatted correctly, we can go and put this into the actual map. I'm going to go to Google and open a new tab, and I'm just going to search for national map. There was something. What was it? Just that's my train of thought. I was going to say something else. What I was going to say, I will just say this really quickly, is that if you do want help formatting your files to upload to national map, let us know. We do occasionally get people ask us, can you help me with this? I've tried and I can't get it working. Can you try for me? Yes, we're more than happy to help you do that. So let us know, just pop it into an email and send it to us or something like that. We'll definitely have a look at those for you because it can be a bit tricky. So we're happy to have a look at those if you want to. Okay, now I've gone over to Google Chrome, I've opened a new tab and I'm just going to do a search for national map. This is the piece of software that we're going to use. I'm going to hit enter and there it is right at the top, nationalmap.gov.au. I'll click into that. Now, what is this? If anyone is wondering what national map is, from what I've heard, don't quote me on this might be a little bit of a rumor, but anyway, national map is the dumping ground for government data. Apparently by law, the government, I think all levels of government, but I don't really know, but government is required to publish their data publicly. So they created this and they put it in there and now we can all access it if we want. The other thing we can do is to use it to put our data in there and see it and make a heat map. Now, This is what you get when you first load up National Map. I'm just going to close this. You could take a tour and do all the let's get started stuff if you want, but I'm just going to close that. Okay. What we want to do is upload that data that we just saw in our Excel file, our spreadsheet, to this map. The way to do that is to use this button here that says upload. We can upload either local or web data. I'm just going to click that button and that's going to open this little window. Okay. Now, I could add web data. I don't really know how that works. I've got local data. I've got that Excel file, the spreadsheet, which I just had open, is saved to my machine. So I'm going to add that data that is called local data. Okay, once I click that, I come through here. Now, as I was saying, you could export your data out of class using a bunch of different file formats. Again, I'm not sure which ones this will support and which ones it doesn't. Once you click on the upload button, it'll select this by default, the auto detect, which is recommended. I recommend it as well. Just leave it on auto detect. It will detect what file format your file is. Hopefully that'll work nicely. It usually does. All you do then is select file. I've got it in here. Now I'm going to upload the original one I just downloaded, which is that one. Open that and we'll see what it does. It's loading. It didn't work. Sometimes it will give you an error message. If it does that, you need to go back to your file and reformat it, because it will sometimes detect there's data in here I can't understand. I can't work with it, is what the software will be telling you. So you might get an error message. We haven't gotten that today. That wasn't a very good demonstration. It didn't work. Anyway, I'm going to bin that file because that's not what I want. Bin it. Okay, good. I'll add local data, browse. I'm going to select the one I actually set up. That one is the heat mapping file. Now, we can already start to see a little bit of heat. And the other thing we see is this. This box on the left has appeared. So it's given us the name of our file, and then it's given us a heat range, I guess is what you would call it. I don't really know what that's called. Okay, I'm going to click done. This is what you do when you have selected your file and all the data you want to add into the heat map. Click done. And as we can see, we've already got some heat appearing in there, which is what I set up with that file earlier. Someone has asked, can you have more than 2 columns of data? I'm guessing that means in your spreadsheet file. I think so. I think you can. I haven't really tested it, but I could. Maybe I will do that another time. I'm not sure I'm going to have time for that today. I'll show you a couple of things you can do once you do get some data into the heat map. You get this pop-up thing right under the help button. You could take the tour. There's how-to videos and other help content there. Yeah, I've got that. Thanks, mate. All right. One thing you can do is click on these regions. If I click on this region, it's going to open this little panel here, which is going to give me a little bit of information. The name here. So that suburb is called Costello, and this is telling me that has 9 clients, and then none of the rest of this I really understand. Apparently there's some poor value in there. I don't know what that means. Anyway, if I click on this one, that's Sandover. Then we've got Ali Karong and Namatjira. Okay, I'm going to scroll over to, once I'm done looking at those, I can close them, scroll over to Sydney, because I've got heat in here as well. And so there it's showing us our heat map. That would be Katoomba from the file we had, and then I can't remember what the name of that suburb is, but I could click on it to find out. There's Erskine Park and all the other ones there. There's Sydney, the city of Sydney, the suburb of Sydney. That's got 20 clients, I think. Yeah, anyway, busy in there. So there's the heat on our map. Again, not a great demonstration. Hopefully, if you were using these heat maps, it might look a bit nicer. You might have, you might have your heat maps kind of bumped up right next to each other. Anyway, this is what they look like. But there's one other thing I can show you as to what they do. You can compare data. So what I'm going to do is take this file and try and get rid of it. How do I delete that? remove all. I don't want to remove them all. I just want to remove that one. Actually, no data to show, that's fine. Okay. So I think if I explore map data, yeah, okay. So this is the government data that I was mentioning earlier. There's a lot of it in here. There really is. So we could look for data from data.gov.au. What was that data that was already open? I was wondering if that was going to collapse all of this, but it hasn't. It's broken this thing. National data sets for agriculture, climate, all kinds of stuff. And then this is all data from data.gov.au. I'll just find one just to show you what we can do. I wonder if there's AGD. I don't think so. No. I haven't actually really gone through this to find if there's really useful data that we could compare our data to. Anyway, I'll just do a demonstration, and I'm going to choose the ATO because I think I've used this before and it kind of works. I'll just choose that data and I'm going to add it to the map. Okay, I'm done. Okay, so if I go back to my left column here, I don't want that one. What can I do? How do I'll click there. Okay, that's not showing that one now, or is it? Click there. Okay. Now, how do I compare those? There is a way to do this. Collapse all. I really probably should have prepared this, shouldn't I? There is a way to do this. Explore, upload, datasets. About data, no, I don't know that. Capacity, compare. Okay, that's how you do it. Split screen mode. Okay, so I went into this little menu here, show more actions. So now I'm comparing data. Okay, so now I can choose which data I want, terrain, position, both. Okay, so that one I might remove. Okay, so that one's out. Now this one is in, and here's our file. So this file is displaying on the left, and then the ATO data is displaying on the right. And what I can do is move them back and forward. And a better demonstration would be if I zoom in so we can actually see what's going on in the suburb of, I don't know what that is, right, it might be. I can then drag this over and see it's pretty similar, but there is a slight difference in color there. So we can do comparisons between data sets on the national map. Okay, that's about just over an hour, but I think that's about all I really wanted to demonstrate for you today. Maybe I'll be able to hand you back a little bit of your time today, which hopefully will be a good thing. Okay, any other questions? Get them in before we wrap up. There are a couple more things to go through before we wrap up. Yeah, this thing won't take long. Printing, exporting, let me go through that. We've seen exporting. I'll flick back to class. So if you're using the standard reports, your export buttons are pretty much going to be here, not up here. So here's how you would export a report. Just click on that. You can choose your file type. And then printing a report, you could do that as well. We've got a couple of buttons here, print or print just the one page. So I just want to print page 5 of this or whatever. You could do that using that button, or you can just click print. And that'll open this thing. You then print your file. I don't actually have a printer set up, but anyway, I'm sure you all know how to print a file to a piece of paper. Okay, I think that's about it for that demonstration of exporting and printing. I did say it wasn't going to take long. It was pretty quick. Anyway. I think that's about it. Finding documentation and getting help. I did have a question, someone asking, please send the help desk contact details again. Let's go and have a look at them. I usually do the getting help section first. I'll flick back to our website. Now, I usually go to the finding documentation section. So all of the documentation for all of these reports is in the class documentation on our website. We've got this navigation menu on the right-hand side. So look for reporting and accountability and then standard reports, and that's what we've been looking at today. Then you'll have client reports. You could select that, or services management, NPA, and PT. That was the one report I was thinking of earlier. I think that might be a drawdown report. Anyway, they're all listed in there. They've all got documentation on them, just like this one, and it's all documented in a fair amount of detail. As we can see, all counting rules are in there for this is how we count people experiencing financial disadvantage, and all sorts of demographics and all sorts of counting rules are in there now. That's basically how you find the documentation. If that's not working for you, someone did ask for the help desk contact details. Here's where you find those in that right-hand column menu. You click on help and support, and they are in there. Now, there's a few different ways to contact the help desk. The email address is probably the most often used one. That is it. icthelp@clcs.org.au. Email us there, you will get a response from the help desk. If you want something a bit neater, if you don't want to go trawling through email threads, we've got the class portal. I'll open that in a new tab, and I will show you that in just a second. Oh, can you export a class report into Power BI? Thank you for that question. I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. I've got a note of who asked that question. I'm not an expert in Power BI, so I'll ask my colleagues and they will let me know. They will let us know. Okay. Okay. I was looking at the class help desk portal. Let me flick over to that. This is what it looks like. I think you have to have emailed us at least once to be able to create an account in here. I'm not 100% sure how it works. I do know people use it, so it does work. Once you do get an account set up, let us know if you need it. If you want an account and you can't set one up, email us at the help desk and we'll set one up for you or get you set up somehow. Once you do have an account, you can see all of your requests in the top right. I'd show you that, but it's empty because I don't have any requests with the help desk. So not much point in me showing you that because it's empty. You could ask about LexisNexis, the NAS portal, or something else if you like. We're looking at class today, so it might be about class. It might be a reporting request, help running reports or something else. You just click on that, and once it opens, you then type your question and hit create. Not how you spell question. And that will send that there. Then you click in there and you've got your requests. You'll get all of your responses and whatnot as well. Will I be making the PowerPoint slides available, or is this session recorded? Okay, thanks for the question. I can make the PowerPoint slideshow available to you if you want. The session is recorded. It will be on our website. Let me show you where to find those. If you don't want the slide deck, let me know. Actually, you know what? Let me take a note of that question and I'll get in contact with you. Okay. Yep. Let me show you where to find the videos of, I'll show you where to find our video library is what I'm now calling it. Let me just finish what I was talking about. That's basically the help desk portal. I'll flick back to our website. There's also the phone number. We do a bit of working from home, a bit of working in the office, so phones are a bit different to what they were a couple of years ago. Anyway, we do have an answering machine, so if you do leave us a voicemail, we do respond to all of those voicemails. If you leave a name and number, we will get back to you. So that's how you contact the help desk: the email, the portal, or the phone. Now, as for our training, our video library of the previous training sessions, I'll show you where to find that. So in this right-hand menu, I'm going to click on training. This is what we're doing. Okay, and once this loads, we will see that we've got, these are just descriptions of what the training that we do. The class demo site, I'll open that in a new tab. Oh, these glasses aren't working, sorry. We've got a demo version or a dummy version of class that you can play with. It's kind of a playground or a sandbox version. If you want to use it, let us know. We just send out login details to anyone and everyone who asks. I was explaining what's in here. There's the class training schedule. Next week is DIY and drill down reports. The week after that is accountability. There's your schedule. And here's the video library. So that's where you find the videos of the previous training sessions, and they're all in there, quite a few of them. All the new user stuff, projects, and there's last week's reports session. This one will be replaced this afternoon. So if you wanted that video, that is where you would find it. It'll take me an hour or two to get that online. I should be able to get it done before the end of the day. Okay, I think that's about it. I think we're running a little bit early, which I hope is okay. Foreign documentation, getting help. I think we're just about done. Let me just really quickly check for any other questions. I'm not seeing anything in here. No, not seeing anything. Okay. In that case, thank you. I hope this does help. The class reports are not, class itself is not super intuitive, but when you start working with data, things can start to get a bit tricky. So I hope this is helping. Suggestions are welcome. If you've got any suggestions on any training that could help, let us know. Pop us an email or something, or call us, whatever you like. Come to us at the help desk. Let us know any suggestions you have for our class training program, or even any other kinds of any other suggestions for training. And we've got one here. Can we please explain how to do projects, i.e. CLE? Sure can. In fact, we've got a video of it, community projects. That is from February 2021. That sounds old. I could have sworn I've done that session since then. Again, that sounds a little bit out of date, but I mean, the content of that training session doesn't really change. So you could watch that video if you wanted to. If you want the link to it, let me know and I'll absolutely send it to you. We are doing that one again in about 2 months' time. So you've got a couple of options there. Okay. One other person saying thanks. It does help, and we will reach out for any further assistance. Cheers. Okay, great. Thanks for letting me know that. All right. So yeah, if you've got any other suggestions, let us know. Otherwise, thanks for being part of this training session, and I hope that does help. And it's going to be bye from us here at Civil Seas Australia, and might see you again next week. Bye now.